My son sold my house for his wife. My lawyer gave them 48 hours. I smiled. Okay, I said, and I opened the folder with the deed, the closing email, and the trust amendment. It's 11:12 p.m. in Des Moines, Iowa. I'm 74, retired from hospital billing, and the only sound in this kitchen is my refrigerator clicking on and off like it's counting time. My husband, Ron, has been gone 3 years, and I still catch myself setting out 2 mugs before I remember. This started on Tuesday, the 18th of March, 2025, at 7:06 a.m. I walked to the mailbox and found a thin envelope stamped recorded document. Inside was a copy of a warranty deed, my name, and then, somehow, my son Eric's. Not transfer on death, not beneficiary, joint ownership. And it had been recorded 2 days earlier while I was at physical therapy. I didn't call Eric. I didn't cry. I pulled my old home file from the hall closet and laid everything out. The original deed from 1996, the property tax receipts, and the power of attorney form I'd signed for a knee surgery last year. That POA was supposed to let Eric talk to my insurance. It was dated, notarized, and broad. By lunchtime, my neighbor Marlene texted me a photo, a for sale sign in my front yard. If you're listening, tell me what city you're watching from tonight. I was still staring at that photo when my bank app chimed again. At 1:19 p.m., that same Tuesday, my phone showed a deposit notification I didn't recognize. Settlement disbursement. The number was $312,440. My house had been sold without anyone asking me if I wanted to move. I drove to my local branch before the lunch crowd cleared. The lobby smelled like carpet shampoo and printer toner. I asked for a statement printout, not because I needed it, but because paper doesn't change when someone starts talking fast. The teller pulled up my profile and paused. Mrs. Hale, there's a power of attorney on file. I nodded once. From my surgery. It's for medical billing. She turned the screen so I could see. A scanned copy of my signature, my surgeon's date, and Eric listed as authorized agent. Under recent activity was a wire out for $300,000 to an account I'd never opened and a cashier's check request for the remaining balance. Here's the part people don't say out loud. You can be someone's mother and still be treated like a line item. The branch manager, Denise, came over with a practiced smile. She didn't accuse Eric. She didn't defend him either. She just said, "We need to verify you're the principal and you're here in person." So I handed her my ID, signed an affidavit that I was not incapacitated, and requested a freeze on transactions by agent until I spoke with counsel. Denise leaned closer. "There's also an email address on your account I don't recognize." The printer spit out the closing packet, still warm from the rollers. The closing packet had my name typed neatly in all caps, like a label on a box. It had Eric's email on every page, and it had a scan of my signature that looked like me until you stared long enough to notice it didn't. At 3:42 p.m., I texted him one sentence. "Why is my house in escrow?" He answered 9 minutes later. "Because we sold it for Jenna." I read it twice. Then I typed back, "Okay, that's what people miss about staying calm. It doesn't mean you accept it. It means you're choosing the order of operations." Eric called after that, voice sweet like he was talking to a nurse. He said Jenna needed security, that their rent was going up, that I had plenty of space in a senior apartment. He spoke like my home was a couch they were moving across town. So I asked him one question from the packet. "Why does it say agent for principal on the seller line?" Silence. Then he said, "It's legal. You signed the power of attorney." Bofer. Mini twist number 1 was buried in the fine print. The buyer's earnest money receipt listed a move-out date, April 15, 3 weeks away. They weren't just taking ownership. They were setting my deadline. I didn't argue. I saved screenshots. I forwarded the packet to myself, and I drove home slow, watching my street like it belonged to someone else. When I pulled into my driveway, my doorbell camera sent a motion alert. Wednesday, the 19th of March, 2025, 9:10 a.m., I sat in a law office that smelled like lemon cleaner and old paper. The receptionist offered me water. I asked for a copier. Miss Patel was in her 50s, hair clipped back, calm eyes that didn't perform sympathy. I laid the closing packet, my original deed, and that power of attorney on her table, like I was setting out evidence in a case I never wanted. She didn't promise miracles. She asked questions. When did you sign this? Who arranged the notary? Where were you the day it was used? Then she pointed to one line in the POA that made my stomach go cold. It authorized Eric to manage property, but it didn't authorize him to gift it to himself. And it definitely didn't authorize him to sell it to fund someone else's plans. Mini twist. The notary block on the deed had a stamp expiration date that was already passed. Ms. Patel drafted 2 letters. One went to the buyer's escrow office, putting them on notice of a disputed authority. The second went to Eric and Jenna. Return the proceeds, surrender any keys, and stop contact through third parties. She looked at me and said, I'll give them 48 hours. After that, we file. I signed an updated trust amendment naming my granddaughter as beneficiary, not Eric. Then I signed a revocation of that old power of attorney. Her assistant slid a sealed envelope across the desk, stamped 48 hours. They didn't wait 48 hours to respond. They waited 13. Thursday, the 20th of March, 2025, 10:27 p.m. I was in my living room with one lamp on, listening to late traffic, when my driveway gravel cracked under tires. Eric's SUV, Jenna's smaller car behind it, close like she didn't trust him to do it alone. Eric knocked once, then tried my doorknob like he already owned the habit. The knob didn't turn because I had installed a deadbolt years ago and never given him that key. I watched from the hallway and let the doorbell camera record. No speech, no pleading face, just documentation. When I opened the door, Jenna held a folder like a shield. "We got your lawyer letter," she said. "This is unnecessary." Eric stepped in front of her. "Mom, you're making this messy. Just sign this and we're done." He handed me a temporary occupancy agreement. It was a lease charging me rent to live in my own home for 90 days. Mini twist. The paper had a line that required me to waive all future claims arising from prior transactions. That's when I understood the real goal. They weren't asking for peace. They were asking for a signature that would clean their tracks. I read it quietly, then folded it in half and handed it back. "No," Jenna's smile snapped tight. "Fine. If you won't cooperate, we'll prove you can't manage on your own." Right then, headlights swept my curtains, and someone knocked again harder. The hard knock was a uniformed officer, polite and tired, standing under my porch light. Eric had requested a welfare check. The officer asked my name, the date, and who the president was. I answered, then handed him Miss Patel's business card and the recorded deed copy. He glanced at it and said, carefully, "This looks like a civil matter." Jenna tried to turn it into a medical one. She stood behind Eric and spoke past him, loud enough for the officer to hear. "She's confused lately. She forgets things. We're worried." I didn't correct her in the moment. I waited until the officer left and my house went quiet again. Friday, the 21st of March, 2025, 8:05 a.m. I was in my primary care clinic, sitting on crinkly paper, taking a cognitive screening I hadn't needed in my entire life. I asked my doctor for one thing, a short letter stating I was oriented, capable, and managing my affairs. Mini twist. When the nurse opened my chart, there was a new note, "Family reports increasing forgetfulness." and the callback number was Jenna's cell. My doctor raised an eyebrow. "Did you authorize anyone to speak for you?" "No," I said, "and I'm revoking it today." The letter printed, signed, dated. I asked for 2 originals, one for my safe, one for Miss Patel. Before I left the clinic parking lot, I emailed a photo of that chart note to my attorney. In my car, a voicemail pinged from a number I didn't recognize. Saturday, the 22nd of March, 2025, 2:30 p.m. Jenna played her favorite card, The Children. She asked me to meet at the community center where Sophie had dance practice and Miles chased a ball down the hallway like it was a mission. Eric stayed in the parking lot, arms crossed, letting Jenna do the speaking. She crouched to my eye level like we were in a parenting class. "The kids are confused," she said. "They need stability. Sign the agreement, and we can stop all this." "You can ding." Sophie ran up and hugged my waist. "Mom says we're moving to your house," she whispered, like it was a secret plan. "Is my room gonna be pink?" That was my mini twist. The kids had already been told the ending. They were being used as a soft weapon. I didn't correct Sophie. I kissed her forehead and said, "We'll see, honey." Then I looked at Jenna. "Don't put them in the middle again." Jenna's smile tightened. "If you keep fighting us, you won't see them. We can make that official." Too indiscreet. I didn't raise my voice. I handed her a folded note with 2 sentences. The hours I was available for visits, and the phrase, "through counsel only," for everything else. As I walked to my car, my phone showed a new email from Sophie's school portal. I screenshot it while my keys were still in my hand. It said my name had been removed as an emergency contact. Monday, the 24th of March 2025, 6:58 a.m. I found a bright certified mail slip stuck to my door like a warning label. I signed at the post office counter and carried the envelope out with both hands. Inside was a petition for guardianship, Eric as petitioner, Jenna as interested party. They weren't just trying to take my house, they were trying to take my voice. The packet listed evidence of my incapacity. 1 missed phone call, 1 late utility payment, and a note claiming I confused the date of my surgery. The dates were wrong, the stories were thin, but the request at the bottom was bold. Temporary control of my finances and residence, pending a hearing set for April 2 at 9 a.m. Mini twist. The petition listed the house sale proceeds as funds needing protection, and the amount matched the wire out I'd seen at the bank, down to the last 3 digits. Miss Patel didn't sound surprised when I read it to her. She sounded ready. She told me to bring my doctor's capacity letter, the bank freeze confirmation, and the notary expiration issue from the deed. That afternoon, we met in the courthouse hallway under fluorescent lights that made everyone look tired. Eric arrived with Jenna and a new attorney I'd never met. Jenna avoided my eyes. Eric leaned in and whispered, "You could have just cooperated." Before I could answer, a deputy called my case number from the doorway. The 2nd of April, 2025, 9:14 a.m. I sat at the respondent's table with my hands folded, the way I used to sit through hospital budget meetings, quiet, prepared, and hard to rattle. Eric told the court he was protecting me. He said I was isolated, that I didn't understand paperwork, that I was being influenced by an attorney who wanted fees. Jenna nodded, like a metronome. Miss Patel didn't raise her voice. She handed the judge 3 pieces of paper: my doctor's capacity letter, the bank's written freeze confirmation, and the deed page showing the notary stamp expiration. Mini twist. The judge asked Eric's attorney a simple question: why did you move the sale proceeds out the same day? The attorney hesitated. Miss Patel stood and asked permission to submit the bank's transaction summary as Exhibit 7. It showed the $300,000 wire landing in an account titled Eric Hale or Jenna Hale. Then it showed 2 immediate transfers, $18,600 to a collections law office, and $9,940 to a car lender. Eric's jaw tightened. Jenna's pen stopped moving. The judge leaned forward. Those are not protective expenses. Those are personal liabilities. For the first time, Jenna spoke directly to me. "We were going to pay you back," she said, like that was a plan, not a confession. Miss Patel slid one more page forward. A past due notice for their apartment, dated March 10. The judge lifted Exhibit 7, and the room went quiet under the paper. By 4:30 p.m., that same day, the judge's written order hit my attorney's inbox. No guardianship, no temporary control, and no contact outside counsel. It wasn't poetic. It was practical. It was exactly what I needed. The house issue took another week of clean paperwork. The escrow office, now on notice, paused the transfer. The buyer backed away fast when the authority was disputed. On April 9, 2025, IMS Patel emailed me a recorded correction deed, my name only stamped by the county recorder. Eric didn't come to apologize first. He came to negotiate. He offered to repay in installments, as if I was a bank and he was a good customer. Miss Patel handled it in writing. A settlement followed. The wire money returned, their petition withdrawn with prejudice, and a promise signed that they would never use that old power of attorney again. Mini twist. Jenna tried to keep control through the kids one last time, but Sophie's school reinstated me after the court order, not after a request. A month later, I met Eric alone at a diner and told him the truth in one sentence. "You can be my son, but you can't be my agent." I kept my home. I kept my dignity. I kept my boundaries. Moral: love doesn't require handing over your keys. What would you do if family tried to sell your life in one signature? Take care tonight and listen for the lock to click.